out of Israel. It has been a week in which it is sometimes challenging to find the beauty, in which it is sometimes challenging to connect ourselves to our larger Jewish story. Or perhaps we feel even more connected tonight in our shared hope for peace, for calm, and for Shabbat. So with that in mind, with that pure and true hope for Shabbat rest and Shabbat peace, we turn to the lighting of our candle blessings. As we do, I invite you to turn off your cell phone or whatever you have on you that might keep you from being fully present in the moment, as we turn to page 120 and bring in the Shabbat light. Oh, please. I'm just so glad you're here. Thank you. Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel Shabbat.
Amen.
Amen. Let's continue on page 138 with Lecha Dodi. We'll sing verses 1, 5, and 9. If you are with us online and using the online Siddur, we will say those page numbers as well. You can find Lecha Dodi on page 20.
Try that together. Lecha Dodi, Likra Kala, B'nei Shabbat, Nekabela.
Let's stand and face the entrance to greet the Shabbat bride.
Oiv Shalom. Ateret bala, gam besimcha u'betzola, toch emunei am segula, boi kala boi.
may be seated, page 144 or 26.
יתקדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
Amen.
ועלמד יברך ירותי וימליך מלכותי בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל. בגלה בגלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם עולם מעלמיה יתברך. יתברך וישתבח ויתבר ויתרומם וינשא ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל שמי דקודשה. בריחו לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחה ונחמתה תמירן בעלמה ויאמרו Amen.
We take a moment now to ask for God's blessings on those who are observing a period of Shiva or Shloshim, the immediate 7 and 30-day mourning periods. If you wish to, we invite you to stand at this time so that we may ask for God's blessings upon you. Hamakom yenachem etchem, may you be comforted among the mourners of Zion and Jerusalem. We all stand together, page 146 or 28 for the Baruch Hu.
Adonai
To the next page and read together in the Hebrew. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim b'chokhmah poteach sha'arim uvitvuna meshane itim umachalif et hazmanim umsader et hakochavim b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono borei yom v'layla golel or mipnei choshech v'choshech mipnei or.
ומעביר יום ומביא לילה, ומבדיל בין יום ובין לילה, אדוני צבאות שמו, אל חי וקיים, תמיד ימוך עלינו לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, המעריב ערבים.
Page 151 or 33, responsively at the bottom. Wisdom and wonder, passion and instruction, story and symbol. All these things your Torah gives to us, and the more we devote ourselves to it, the more it grows and gives. What could be a truer token of your abiding love than this holiest of your works and the living language that gives it form together? Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael.
Adonai לעולם ועד.
Let's be seated as we turn to the next page.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לפניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם, אמת.
Let's turn to 158 or page 40. As we turn to Mi Chamocha, some thoughts just to share quickly. I do not have a sister. I do not have a sister. I have two brothers. And my sister-in-law and I joke that I picked her for my brother because what I had always wanted actually was a sister. And so I had this classmate who I loved and looked up to as if she was a sister. So of course I did the natural thing. And I introduced her to my brother. And everything went according to plan. And I finally have the sister that I never had when I was growing up. As we're getting ready for the Women's Seder, which happens on Sunday afternoon, I know that I'm going to see many of you there. That will be an opportunity for us to celebrate these relationships, whether we are there with our actual sisters or our friends who feel like sisters or our actual daughters or the people that we think of like a daughter. I get to be there with my actual mother, which is wonderful. And also so many of you who are like surrogate moms to me at this point. These relationships are sacred. The ones that we build, the ways that we strengthen one another, the ways that we come together to be a supportive, loving community that is more than a community because it is a family. So as we think about freedom tonight, as we prepare for the holiday ahead, we notice that freedom sometimes comes through the kinds of relationships where you can be your truest self, as if you're like a sister, as if it's like a mother, as if it's like a daughter. Holy sister, holy daughter, where you are we find the water. Where you are we hear the song those relationships, we find peace and connection and protection. We turn to page 160 or 42 for Hashkivenu.
Let's join together. Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, vehamidenu shomrei. Nu lechayim, Hashkivenu Adonai, Eloheinu leshalom, vehamidenu shomrei.
Page 162 or 44.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורות ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורות ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם, אותי לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורות ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה אדוני, עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורות ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורות ברית עולם. One more time. ושמרו בני ישראל השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורות ברית עולם.
We'll turn to page 164 or 46 for the Amidah. Before we stand, I want to direct your attention to the reading on page 165 in the middle. As we mentioned at the beginning, this week has been challenging in many ways, with news that we haven't wanted to hear and fear often in our hearts. And so we come to services for that comfort, and then we wonder, how are we even supposed to find it here? What is it about doing this that makes anything better? And on weeks like this, I like to turn to this reading, one that gives us some direction and some hope. Prayer invites God's presence to suffuse our spirits, God's will to prevail in our lives. Prayer may not bring water to parched fields, nor mend a broken bridge, nor rebuild a ruined city, but prayer can water an arid soul, mend a broken heart, rebuild a weakened will. Let's stand as we turn to 164 or 46 for the Amidah.
Yalla lai lai lai, 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 yalla lai lai lai. Adonai sefatai tivtach. Kehilah Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Yalla lai lai lai, yalla lai lai lai, yalla lai lai lai, yalla lai lai lai, yalla lai. Adonai, Eloheinu, Velohei Avotenu ve'imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Velohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Velohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibur ve'hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei Hakol, Vezocher Chastei Avot ve'imahot, Umevii geula livnei v'nechem, Leman shemo be'ahava, Melech Ozer u'Moshiach u'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah, Atah gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechayei hakol atah rav lehoshia, Mashiv haruach u'morid hagashem, Mechalkel chayim bechesed, Mechayei hakol verachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofech olim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato lishenei afar, Michamocha ba'al gevurot, Umito melach, Melech meimit umechayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah lehachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kedoshim b'chol yom yehalelucha selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh.
Please be seated. 172 or 54. Atah kidashta et yom hashvi'i l'shimcha, tachlit ma'aseh shamayim ba'aretz, erachto mikol hayamim, v'kidashto mikol azmanim, v'chen katuv b'toratecha, v'yechul hashamayim ba'aretz, v'chol tzva'am, v'yechol Elohim b'yom hashvi'i milachto asher asa, v'yishbot b'yom hashvi'i mikol melachto asher asa, Vayivarech Elohim et Yom HaShvi'i, vayikadesh oto, kivo Shabbat mikol melachto asher bara Elohim la'asot. Together, our God and God of our ancestors, be pleased with our rest. Sanctify us with your mitzvot, and grant us a share in your Torah. Satisfy us with your goodness, and gladden us with your salvation. Purify our hearts to serve you in truth. In your gracious love, Adonai, our God, grant as our heritage your holy Shabbat, that Israel, who sanctifies your name, may rest on it. Praise to you, Adonai, who sanctifies Shabbat. Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat. Friends, it has been a long couple of weeks. We have had loss in our community. We have had loss in our world. And we have had demonic hatred acting itself out on the part of the president of Russia and the Russian military on those who are innocent. And on top of that, I'm sure in our own lives, in your lives, there are challenges and darknesses. But as Rabbi Mason Barkin alluded to before, this is our time to let some light in. Start with looking at these beautiful Shabbat candles to remember and to keep the Shabbat, and remember that the Shabbat is our great equalizer. It is our salvific force. And take advantage of some time of silence to harness that energy and to find salvation, to find love, and maybe even to think of something that'll bring a smile to your face as we continue with silent prayer.
Let us continue together with these words of meditation in the middle of page 180. Ihiu leratzonim reifi, Ihiu leratzonim reifi, vehegyo libi lefanecha. Adonai tzuri vegohali. Oh, may the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable before you, my rock and my redeemer. It's so nice to sing with all of you. Amen.
Amen. Amen indeed. We're going to continue now with our prayers for healing for all of our loved ones. If you would please turn ahead to page 371 so we're prepared. We're going to wish in a moment by name, Misha Berach, a prayer for healing for our loved ones in our community, but we will also add the names you wish to read out loud. It's okay when we're doing that, or say out loud, I should say, speak out loud. It's okay to talk over each other. I'm not calling on anyone, so I'll look around. And please include those names online. Of course, in the comment section below, please type in the name of a loved one because we really want to bring them into our hearts as well. Misha Berach.
Misha Berach Avoteinu Mekor HaBracha Leimotenu. May the source of strength who bless the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen.
On this Shabbat, we share our prayers for healing to the following members of Congregation Beth Israel, and in a moment we'll include the names that you would like to speak out loud. Tonight we think of Elisa Talia Bat Dina Rojo, Christine Baker, Cassie Black, Stephen Black, Brendan Beryl, Yisrael Ben Mirkalea, Gershon Ben Miriam, Rita Buckman, Reen Bat Bacha, Hannah Devorah Bas Sarah Davina, Chaim Ben Masha, Christine Kobo, Colette Critchfield, Dov V'Yaakov V'Malka, Andrea Gass, Miriam Bat Yaakov V'Chaya, Megan Jeromoni, Gretchen Hunsaker, Stan Quaisian, Mark Leib, Diane Nahus, David Rothenberg, Don Rosenblum, Dr. Larry Saltzman, Jody Sandler, Issei Shimutsu, Gary Stern, Addison Thompson, Lee Ugal, Jim Willett. Please, if you wish, say the name of the loved one out loud for us to take into our hearts. Take them all in our hearts as Cantor completes this song with us.
Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
So this is, you should never begin a drosh, let alone a sentence, with the word so. Let me rephrase. But you know how I love to write word for word everything I'm about to say. There is no Shabbat like Shabbat HaGadol. How do I know this? What does the word Gadol mean? Big, large. It's the big Shabbat. So there can't possibly be a bigger Shabbat than tonight and tomorrow. There can't, because it's called Shabbat HaGadol. There is no bigger Shabbat. One could argue because Yom Kippur has the pseudonym, the Sabbath of Sabbaths, or Shabbat Shabbaton, that's bigger. Tonight's the biggest. Shabbat HaGadol. It was traditional. Many of you have known this because I've said it every year. Thank you. I'm going to miss our twirlers. And I would leave now, too, by the way. This is when I would. The twirlers, they were twirling during Michamocha. It's precious. There is no bigger Shabbat than the Shabbat. It was traditional for rabbis to speak the longest of our Torah on this Shabbat because they would cover, well, what do you think the rabbis would have to cover on this Shabbat that would be important Torah learning and studying. What? The Exodus could be to kind of prepare for the Haggadah. What else? Think about traditional observance, Jewish rabbis. Well, there's no other kind. Rabbis who are teaching Jewish law, for example. The Exodus definitely, because we're commanded to tell the story. What else would they be teaching on the Shabbat? Certain laws. Say it. You know what it is. Kashrut for Pesach. Not the dishes part, but, right? Because they couldn't afford 2 sets of dishes. This was the Shabbat where they would share hours and hours, which I'm going to do, on the laws of Kashrut for Shabbat. I am actually not going to do that. But what I will do is throughout my comments tonight, read certain passages from the 5,273 Haggadahs that are on the market right now. I made up that number, but it feels like every year there is a new Haggadah. So let me start with the basic premise of Shabbat Haggadol and the mindset, to use a modern lingo kind of word, of a Jew this many nights, exactly a week before First Seder. The most famous line, B'chol dor v'dor, every generation, each person in that generation, each Jew must look upon himself or herself as if they left Egypt. So that's our mindset for the next 7-8 days as we enter Pesach. Not that the generation should see itself, but every individual Jew must see themselves as if they left Egypt. And for non-Jews who are married to Jews, who have a Jewish home, alachat kama v'kama, even more so because Moses took out with him the mixed multitude. So that is Jew, Egyptian, pagan worshiper, descendant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. They all went with Moses on this journey. And now let me go to another Haggadah, a new Haggadah, of course, called the New American Haggadah. It teaches the story of Passover may seem very remote to you, as if it happened thousands of years ago when the oldest people at your Seder table were very, very young. And so many of the details, sorry to project, and so many of the details of the story seem somewhat old-fashioned, such as the smearing of lamb's blood over the doorway of one's home, which has largely been replaced by signs warning away solicitors. And be careful, I have a very big dog who will eat you. But in fact, the story of liberation is one that is still going on, as people all over the world are still in bondage. And we wait, and we wait, and we wait. Next year in Jerusalem, next year in Jerusalem. We've waited as long as the Jews in Egypt waited and waited to leave. Next year in freedom, next year in liberation. The day when freedom will be spread all over the world like frosting on a well-made cake, kosher for Passover, rather than dabbed here and there as if the baker were sort of selfishly eating most of the frosting directly from the bowl, which I would never myself do, but I've heard of others. I have a friend who does that. The story of Passover is a journey, and like most of our journeys, it's taking way too long. When will we get there? The Jewish heart says. No matter how many times we ask for the directions, we must look upon ourselves as though we too were among those fleeing bondage in Egypt and wandering the desert for years and years and years, which is why we are often so tired in the evenings and cannot always explain how we got to be exactly where we were. The New American Haggadah begins with this statement, which I think captures, is an understatement, the sentiment of in every generation, B'chol dor v'dor, that each person must look upon himself or herself as if they themselves, I left Egypt for the purposes of salvation and redemption. So this New American Haggadah passage, believe it or not, was written by the author Daniel Handler. Daniel Handler goes by the pseudonym Lemony Snicket. And Daniel Handler went to Lowell High School, which is where I went, and grew up at Congregation Beth Israel, where I grew up. Yes, Lemony Snicket and I know each other. His use of these metaphors and these ideas, they're actually not metaphors, they're very, very symbolic words, have a lot of meaning for us. When we think of that baker with the cake, and when we think about sitting in the back of the car saying, when will we get there? And when we even joke a little bit about the faces of the people around the Seder table, there is sort of this lasting impact of imagery that he captures here that we capture in our hearts at our own Seder tables, remembering those who were once with us, our grandparents, our parents, even our siblings and friends who may not be with us at the Seder table physically, but at least for the first time in 3 years, if not, for the first time in a long time, we will be able to celebrate as Jews should, which is as a group with food. Yummy food. But there is secondarily a real fundamental question, a fundamental question that we should consider as we read these passages this coming week. Why do we need to be reminded every single year that we should look upon ourselves as if we ourselves left Egypt? Why is it not sufficient to say, they left Egypt and I am their descendant, and therefore I take this mantle of responsibility to look for seeking ways of creating freedom and liberation for others? Every Jewish person who's ever attended a Seder presumably knows why they're there. In other words, I know why I'm here. I don't need to be reminded by the Haggadah as to why I'm here. But the answers aren't simple, which is the main reason in and of itself for asking the question, why do we need to be reminded that each one of us should look on ourselves as if we left Egypt? So I thought about this. And then today it occurred to me that there were two things in the news today, two events in our world that took place that reminded me, and I hope will remind us, why it is that we should see ourselves as if we were slaves in Egypt. Not for the slavery piece, but for the redemption piece. The two pieces of news you all know. First, Israeli astronaut. He's not an astronaut, he's a civilian. But he went on the SpaceX rocket today, Eitan Stibbe. Eitan Stibbe was the first Israeli to go up into space since Ilan Ramon went up in 2000, almost 20 years ago, went up and unfortunately died tragically on the way back down. He's going to the International Space Station, the first Israeli in almost 20 years, to study, to do science experiments that will help improve our lives and the lives of our children and grandchildren. When I think of thinking or seeing, I should say, myself as if I left Egypt, I think of Eitan Stibbe and what it means to have a Jew in space recognized internationally, considering the plight and oppression of the Jewish people over these last millennia. It's a miracle, and it's an accomplishment, and it should and does indeed make us proud to know that Israelis, the startup nation as it were, are at the cutting edge now of space exploration on top of everything else that Israel does that is good for the Jews and for the world. And then I thought about another story that happened almost at the same exact time. And that was the moment when Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson stood in front of the White House with the president and the vice president to speak about her almost becoming, the next Associate Justice of our Supreme Court, following Stephen Breyer, another graduate of Lowell High School. Stephen Breyer, Lemony Snicket, Steve Kahn. Do you see the order of, you see how that order goes? Ketanji Brown Jackson, it does not need to be said, which means I'm going to say it, is going to be the first African-American woman to serve on the Supreme Court. And she's replacing a Jew. And then I look at that line from the Haggadah and I say to myself, this is a moment of celebration regardless of where we stand politically, because an African-American woman is going to be a Supreme Court Associate Justice. That means when we see ourselves as if we were slaves in the land of Egypt, we should be doubly, triply excited at this event in and of itself. An African-American woman becoming an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court. It made me think, and I looked this up, in 1916 was the first time ever that the Senate created a judiciary committee to conduct hearings over a Supreme Court nominee. Do you want to know why in 1916 it was the first time? Because the nominee was Louis Brandeis, a Jew. There was such latent anti-Semitism, not only in the hallways of Congress, but in the country at that time, that the first Jew nominated by President Wilson to serve on the Supreme Court was going to need some scrutiny. Up until then, there had never been a Senate confirmation hearing for any Supreme Court justice. Now, many of us may think that Amy Coney Barrett's confirmation, think about that also, the last two associate justices of the court are both women. That's another thing to celebrate, by the way. Many of us thought it was terrible how Amy Coney Barrett was treated by the men on the committee, on the confirmation committee a couple of years ago, and she was. Asked incredibly inappropriate questions about her religion and her faith. There is still an underlying hatred of Catholics in our country as well. But Louis Brandeis was scrutinized not for 4 days, but for 4 months. His confirmation lasted 4 months, and many would argue because he was a Jew, that the Senate would spend 4 months scrutinizing. The former president at the time, President Taft, actually said the following: Brandeis is a muckraker, an emotionalist for his own purposes, a socialist prompted by jealousy, a hypocrite, a man of infinite cunning, of great tenacity of purpose, and in my judgment, of much power for evil. And we thought what they said last week was harsh. And why did he use those words and those images? Because Brandeis was a Jew. My point is this: if in every generation, each person, each one in this room, must look upon ourselves as if we had left Egypt ourselves, we have to understand what it means not to be a slave, but the responsibility incumbent upon us when given our freedom. With freedom and responsibility comes action. We should celebrate the fact that there is a Jew, an Israeli, in space tonight, waiting to dock with the International Space Station after the last 100 years, let alone 1,000 years, the Jewish community has suffered. We should embrace, regardless of how we feel about the politics, enough already, that an African-American woman will become the next Associate Justice, and wish our prayers that Ketanji Brown Jackson will also send a message to young African-American women, women of color, and non-women of color, that anything is achievable if you put your mind to it and you work very, very hard in our country. These are moments of celebration. They give light to the darkness and remind us that the story of Pesach is not only about slavery, but that it's about the reminder that we were slaves in Egypt with a purpose, to be a great and holy nation. So, to begin this process over the next week, by which we will free ourselves and pray free the world of slavery, the slavery from outside forces and dysfunction, we must constantly remind ourselves not only that we were slaves in Egypt, but that we are now free, lest we take for granted that freedom itself, lest we forget how oppressed, how very oppressed, persecuted we were and others. We have to live with these stresses of our lives, but on this Pesach, I pray that we will use every positive energy that we can to overcome those negative impulses that make us miss historic moments of importance that change the axis on which the earth rotates, and remind ourselves that we are not slaves anymore, and we need to start more and more behaving as such. Shabbat Shalom. Matthew Ross is on the bima. He is here on behalf of our board of directors to share some announcements of upcoming programs and all other kinds of fun things. I left a little stand for you, too.
Thank you.
You did not go to Lowell High School.
No, but my mother did.
Well, there you have it. Of course your mother
Close
did.
enough.
Yeah.
San Franciscan.
There you go.
Shabbat Shalom. Centennial Scholar in Residence Sarah Hurwitz will join us Wednesday, April 13th at 7 p.m. discussing her book, Here All Along. Registration is available online. We look forward to seeing you April 24th at our next Tourist Scribe event. If you would like to fill one of the remaining spots to write a letter in our new Torah with our scribe, Rabbi Druin, please register. Tee it up at the CBI Centennial Golf Tournament and swing for the future. Tournament takes place at the Arizona Biltmore Golf and Country Club on Sunday, May 1st. Registration and sponsorship opportunities are available on our website. Please mark your calendars for the CBI annual meeting on Sunday, May 15th at 10 a.m. at CBI and on Zoom. Friday night dinner group is back. Please contact CBI member Patty Coslow to RSVP and for restaurant info 1 week in advance, and join other congregation members for dinner immediately following services. Whether you are here or joining us online, we hope you will consider a special gift of tzedakah to our All for One campaign to help defray membership costs for many of our fellow Jewish families. Information is available on our website. If you're joining us for the first time or viewing Shabbat services from outside of the Valley of the Sun, feel free to introduce yourselves virtually in the comments section below on YouTube or on Facebook so that we can wish you a special Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
You can still come to Israel June 6th through 16th with Cantor and me. You can still come. We have room. We have room. Now, it's not a large group, but it's a mighty group. And we're going to have a great time. And I cannot wait until the 6th. Flying away on the airline to, we have a lot of time to make up for. We haven't been to Israel as a community in like 4 or 5 years. I'm so excited. Anyway, come join us. You can see me or Cantor or call us if you have any questions. And it's the kind of thing where you're like, yeah, we didn't really plan ahead, but we don't really have anything else going on in June. Why not go to Israel with us? I assure you, big Jewish fun, lots of yummy food, and maybe even a little bit of a spiritual experience as it turns out. So please, please, please join us. All right, we are going to conclude our service, 586 or 282 with Aleinu. Please stand.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא ונאמר וביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Friends, we are on this Shabbat going to share our deepest sympathies and note the passing of the following people who were recently laid to their eternal rest. Candy Arthur, wife of Dr. Joel Arthur, mother of Dr. Mandy Deitch and Dr. Chad Arthur. Stephen J. Miller, father of Randy Miller, Jeffrey Miller, and Beth Miller, pop-pop to Jake and Madison. Shirley Oberfield, wife of Robert Oberfield, mother of Wayne and Eric, grandmother of Harper. Ruth Wiesel Layden, wife of Benjamin Layden of blessed memory, mother of Patricia Koslow. Nan of William and Melissa and Alex. On the Shabbat, we also remember with love those of our congregational family whose yahrzeits occur this week. Albert, Lorenz Anderman, Joseph Axelrod, Ruth Bickert, Benjamin S. Bloom, Sarah Bloom, Sue Bloom Bernhard, Irving Dorfman, Barbara Fishman, Gertrude Schneider Friedenbach, Sam Friedman, Albert Gale, Alan Garber, Rose Gittell, Ellie Goldberger, Eva Greenberg, Dr. Arthur Hurwich, Alfred Kirschner, Rudy Kirschner, Paul Leibowitz, Jesse Lerner, Maurice Lewine, Sophie Lichtegg, Morris Liebling, Mac Maiden, Tilly Miller, Robert Eli Newmark, George Perlman, Joan Rosenberg, Howard Rubin, Martin Harvey Siegel, Rose Siegel, Saul Shapira, Eli Shapiro, Leonard Shapiro, David Snyder, Dr. Samuel Snyder, Sarah Stein, Francis Strong, Clemens Stuckold, Roland Weiss, Barbara Winograd, Rose Wise. If anyone would like to say out loud the name of a loved one you'd like us to take into our hearts with our own, or online if you wish to type in the comment section the name of a loved one, please do so at this time. Each Shabbat, we remember with our deepest love and affection the 6 million who perished in the Shoah, including the 1.5 million children who have no one to say Kaddish for them, and the soldiers and civilians of the state of Israel who have given their lives for our Jewish homeland. May all of their souls be bound up in the bonds of eternal life along with our own loved ones. Page 598 or 294. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divrach yirutei v'amlich malchutei b'chayachon v'yomechon v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael b'agala v'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabba mevorach le'alam le'amei amaya. Yiparach v'yishtabach v'yipa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kudsha b'richu. Le'elah min kol berchata v'shirata tushbachata v'nechemata Damiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yesh lama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'mermav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to those who are grieving, as together we say, amen.
Amen. So we're going to invite you to close your Sidurim and
good.
refer to the pamphlet that you received when you walked in, because
You guys.
it's been 2 years since we've celebrated Passover. And don't think I haven't been up to anything, because I wrote 40 Passover parodies over the past 2 years, 40. But tonight, we're going to conclude with my top 3. All right? So open it up. This is for, just wait, Rabbi. You thought that was Shabbat Haggadah. Rabbi, where's a thing for Rabbi?
This is the Passover.
This is the Passover Purim parody mashup. We're going to start with an oldie but a goodie. Jackie? Sing it when you know it. It's time to light the candles It's time to dip herbs twice. It's time to tell the story at our first Seder tonight. It's time to fill 4 cups up, sing of freedom and God's might. It's time to eat choroset at our first Seder tonight. Why is this night so different from all the other nights? The youngest asks for questions, we hope they get it right. It's time to break the matzah and hide it out of sight. I hope I get to find it. It's the most sensational, invitational, celebrational, informational. Tonight is our Seder. Here we go. When do we eat?
Yisher
Now,
Koach. I think
Rabbi
there's...
Mason Barkin left
Yes.
because she inspired this next one.
Oh, I thought it was because she didn't like the sermon.
Well, I'm not throwing away my staff. I'm not throwing away my staff. Don't look, no looks fool you. I'm one heart up Hebrew, and I'm hitting you with all I have. Pharaoh, you may think you are invincible, sitting there hard and hard, sticking to your principles. You got my people bleeding so they can build these cities, building bricks without straw. Now that is going too far. Too many of the people be suffering. Now they are crying. Hot sun beating down their trying, or they are dying. God has heard them praying, and he sent me down here saying to you, let my people go, or else 10 plagues will be upon you. Well, I'm not throwing away my staff. I'm not throwing away my staff. I was up for the task and I was put in the basket, and I'm going to give it all I have. Niles turned to blood, sorry fishing industry, frogs, flies, wild beasts, all causing you misery. Hail falling from the sky, turning into fire. Birds burning up your skin, you think I am a lighter? Oops, oh, now diseases rot your cattle. You, Pharaoh, have got to learn when to pick your battles. 3 days of darkness got people running wild. Now I'll hit you where it hurts. Goodbye, firstborn child. I'm not throwing away my staff. I'm not throwing away my staff. If you don't let my people go, God's bringing it down, Pharaoh. Get ready to feel God's wrath. Well, I'm not throwing away my staff. Sing with me. I'm not throwing away my staff. If you don't let my people go, God's bringing it down, Pharaoh. Get ready to feel God's wrath. Now, there is somebody who is very important. Can I get a round of applause? Because I rapped for the first time ever, and I did a pretty good job. Now, a person who is very rarely mentioned in the Passover story, but just as important as Moses. There's a familial resemblance with you, Rabbi Khan, and this person. Hey, Moses, it's God in this bush that is burning. I know it's been a while since you've run away. I need you to go down and free my people. I know you are frightened, but hey, that's okay. Suddenly Aaron is standing beside you. You don't need to speak up, don't have to pretend, 'cause I'm sending Aaron to speak to them for you, 'cause they'll understand him. Aaron's your man. Everyone, Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Chag Sameach ve'kasher and Shabbat Shalom.
Kiddush and Hamotzi, if you have them at home, please pour another glass.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen.
L'chaim.
L'chaim.
And challah.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
Please do not forget, there is no Shabbat service on Friday night a week from now for First Seder. That's what we do. But all the names for Kaddish will be read on Shabbat morning, the first morning of the first day of Pesach and Shabbat. So we'll see you a week from tomorrow. Have great Seders, everyone. Shabbat Shalom.